Yeah, really cool opportunity. And if you're also interested in President's Leadership Council, I think applications open soon-ish. So let me know. Um, that's all I got to say on that.
All right, cool. So the semester's coming to a close pretty quick. I think we have like 6 weeks left or something like that. So finals are definitely around the corner, but our looking ahead, our we have one more meeting and then we have the final meeting. Our meeting with Kevin Stewart. Kevin Stewart is he's like director of business management for Northrop Grumman. He is in charge of a lot of stuff at Northrop. Very cool guy. Definitely come out for that meeting. No, it's the next meeting. So he'll be speaking with us. And then Ben already mentioned the Women in STEM. And then there's an Ignite Disney information session on November 5th. So Disney, obviously, pretty hot commodity, highly sought after. So that would be a really cool information session to go after. Um, and as you guys know, pretty sure almost everyone in here is in the Slack. But if you're not in the Slack, use that QR code and then join the Instagram, follow the Instagram because we also post some updates there. But as you guys know, the main communication is through Slack. So we won't waste any more time. Um, and our guest speaker today, Paul, would you like to introduce and how you met Justin and stuff?
Um, yeah, so I actually, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. Um, yeah, so I actually attended like one of Career Services LinkedIn workshops, and Justin was the presenter there. And I also connected with him through LinkedIn after that, and I followed him a little bit on his his content and the expertise he puts out about college in general, and tips that people should know about LinkedIn, and other things that he's familiar with, like marketing and finance stuff. So yeah, as you can see, Justin is a UCF alum, and he's a host of this podcast called Declassified College, where they share cheat codes basically for college students all around the nation. And yeah, I mean, if you want, Justin, you can go ahead and take it away. Go through your talk.
Definitely. Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate that. And it's funny that you have sales associate at Universal on there. So just a little backstory on that. I'm not like a cashier there anymore. I mean, I technically am. That's like my seasonal job, but the only reason I have that is just a little cheat code for everyone here since we're all UCF students. Um, I am seasonal, so I only have to work 32 hours a quarter if I wanted to, but really it's like a year, and I get free tickets and I get basically a season pass for myself. So I'm getting paid like $25, $30 an hour basically to work a cashier job 32 hours a year basically. So if that's like something that you want to do, you want to go to the theme parks, that's always something that you can look into. Probably not now because of COVID, but when everything kind of goes back to normal. So that's why that's still kind of on my LinkedIn profile, which is kind of funny. Now, thank you for like the brief intro, Paul. Like I really appreciate that. And basically to sum up everything that I'm doing now is that I'm just trying to make career education cool, right? I'm sure I'm not oblivious to it. I graduated 2 years ago. There's like 16 other people here. I probably assume that career education is the last thing on your mind, right? You know that you need to get on LinkedIn, you know you need to network, but it's probably way back tucked here, and it's probably because the way that career services talks about it, it makes it seem like this very boring thing that no one wants to do. And what we're starting to do with the podcast as well as our TikTok page is changing the stereotype around that and making it a lot more fun and engaging and speaking it into a way that Gen Z kind of understands. Um, So traditionally, the way that we're doing that, like with our podcast, it's not like most shows. Most shows are like the long 30, 60-minute episodes where that's really boring. And for college students, we don't really have a long commute to listen to something like that. Our episodes are all 5 to 15 minutes long, and we're encompassing different perspectives in it. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me about like the podcast or anything like that. But I kind of want to jump into what we're here to talk about, which is sort of my specialty, LinkedIn. Again, a little bit of background on me in terms of why I'm here to talk about something like that. When I was at UCF, I was the LinkedIn campus editor, which is basically just like a glorified campus ambassador for LinkedIn. But I was able to get a bunch of views of my content, anywhere between 100 to 150,000 views on my stuff every single month on LinkedIn. And then that led to a crap ton of profile views, which then led me to be able to market that on my resume and led to internships, etc. And everyone always focuses on LinkedIn about like, oh, you need to have this on your profile. You need to have a profile picture, your summary, all these different sort of things. And that's important. But like, I'm going to ask you guys, and feel free to put this in the chat, but how many profile views do you guys get on your LinkedIn profile within like the 90-day schedule? Like usually, I think that's the statistics that they use. So feel free to put that in the chat. So we got Rodrigo, 20 to 30, 100 to 200. 100 to 200 is pretty good for a college student. Emmanuel goes not enough. I feel that. Ian, 5. Like it's usually around that of like 0 to 100 for the most part. And when I tell students, like everyone focuses on the profile, but no one focuses on how to bring people to your page. And that's the most important thing, because if you have a great product, but no one knows about it, no one's ever going to buy it. And that's the same thing when it comes to your job search, where the product is actually yourself and you want the job to buy you. So when I tell people that I average now anywhere between 1,500 to 2,000 views on my profile every single month, people are like, oh, that's why you want to create content. And that's the most important part. Now, there's different ways around creating content. You don't have to just create content. There's other ways to bring people to your page, but I would say that's the most efficient way, especially if you're looking for a job. Again, we'll dive into that a little bit later, but I'm just going to share my screen to quickly go over a few things when it comes to just your LinkedIn profile. So let me know if you guys can see my screen. I see Josh just sent me a message.
Yeah, we
cool.
can see it now.
Cool. So you guys can see my screen. This is just the basic LinkedIn home screen. First thing when you
Yes,
go,
you looking at FAU tomorrow?
first thing that you go when you see a profile, right?
We can go on
Just
myself.
imagine that you're a recruiter. You look at this, what's the first thing that you see? It's going to be probably my profile picture and then the background image and then this little headline, right? So what most people have on their background is just the generic blue. If you have that, you just look like everyone else. What I really encourage you to do is go on canva.com and find a way to create a background image that somehow showcases what you do as a student, right? So you should know exactly what type of job that you want to do. And when you know what job that you want to do, you can see what value that is. So for me, I know that I want to make sure that students, when they land on my page, they know that I make college easier. And how do I do it? Through the podcast. So that's why I have a picture of a phone with the podcast on here, as well as making college easier. And then I also have podcaster, speaker, entrepreneur as well, just because if anyone lands on my page that is looking for speakers, or maybe they want to connect with me as an entrepreneur, from entrepreneur to entrepreneur, they know to connect to me there. So something that could look like for a student, if you're in marketing, that could be like raising or growing open rates or increasing open rates on your email marketing campaigns by 30% or something like that. If you're an engineering student, it could be like designing the future or something, and then having like some futuristic as a background photo. Like it really depends on your niche, and that's sort of a case by case scenario. But the more that you know about yourself and the more that you know about the job that you want to kind of get into, I'm sure you can figure out what sort of way to position yourself correctly when it comes to your background photo. Next is the profile image, and feel free to put any messages in the chat, and I'll try to do my best to answer as many questions as possible. Let me see. Ellie says free 12-month sub to Canva Pro with the GitHub student pack. Yo, if you get free 12 months pro with Canva, like Canva Pro is fire. I just started paying for it. It's well worth it if that is true, if that deal is true.
Hey Justin,
Um,
like moderate the chat. If there's a question for you, I can tell you if there's a question.
okay, cool. Appreciate that. Cool.
You're
So
welcome.
that was Google just saying you're welcome. I didn't know Google's listening, but anyways, the profile picture is up. So you might be wondering, why is this kid wearing a backwards hat on his LinkedIn profile? Doesn't it have to be professional? Well, the answer to that is it really depends on your industry. So for me, I'm trying to appeal to Gen Z or college students. So if I'm wearing a buttoned up suit and tie, it's probably not going to transfer over very well when you're looking at my profile. But let's say you're a recruiter, and if I was going for a very sort of conservative industry, let's just say consulting or investment banking, then you probably want to put on the suit and tie for your profile picture. If you're going into like a software engineering, then you probably have a little bit more room to play with like maybe just a collared shirt or a button down. You don't have to have the tie. And then if you're going into a very laid back industry like a marketing, then you can probably get away with just a polo or finding a way to really personalize it to your industry or your personal brand. So the main things that you want to take into consideration with your profile picture is, what industry are you trying to get into? What is sort of the feel of the industry in terms of what do people wear on a day-to-day basis? And then how can you represent that in your own profile picture? And honestly, this was professionally taken at Full Sail just because they were doing some free thing. You don't need a professionally taken profile picture. Just get your phone. Most people's phones have really good cameras anyway. Just have really good lighting. Find a solid background, have really good lighting, and that's really all that you need to do for your profile picture. Don't worry too much about it. Again, any questions, feel free to put that in the chat about your profile picture. Next is your headline. And this is where a lot of students really mess up. And what I mean by that is what you'll typically see, and I'm sure some of you listening to this probably have, is you have like student at UCF or student at this club or student whatever. The problem with that is this is one of the most important parts of SEO. And what SEO means is search engine optimization. So for instance, if I just search up like college student on here, there's a whole bunch of different factors that come into play. But when I click on people, there's a reason that Penelope shows up first as college student. Now you might be saying like, well, then why wouldn't I want to put college student if Penelope is showing up for college student? Well, think about it from a recruiter standpoint. Does a recruiter care if you're a student or not? Probably not. Are they going to look up college student on the search bar? Probably not. What they're going to search is like certain skills in your industry, certain accomplishments, things of that nature. So if you're putting college student, you're not helping yourself out when it comes to these search engines that you need to rank for to get more views onto your profile. So what you want to do here is go to, you have to figure out what job description that you really want to get, and then find that job description and put that onto this website called jobscan.co. And what jobscan.co is going to do, or you can use one of those word blobs as well, is it'll show you what words pop up the most. And whatever words pop up the most, that's what recruiters are typically going to be looking for. So for a marketer, that could be like email marketing, content creation, things of that nature. For engineering, that could be like CAD, design, things like that. I'm not very well versed in engineering, so if I mess anything up there, I'm sorry for that. But I'm sure you guys can kind of understand where I'm going with that. So look up the job descriptions that you need, go to jobscan.co, so just jobscan.co, and then upload those job descriptions, and then it'll tell you what keywords. Find those keywords and find a way to put that into this, whether it's a project that you've worked on and you have some type of statistic. It can be what you're looking to do in the future. You want this right here to be able to rank for whatever job or position that you want to rank for when someone is looking something up. A cheat code here is I believe on desktop, it's like 120 characters, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's 120 characters that you have as a limit for the headline. Discard. But if you do it on your mobile, you actually have 160 characters, I believe. It's either 140 or 160. So you get more characters by using your mobile instead of doing it on the desktop. So just a little thing that you can add a little bit more keywords if you'd like. The other thing is on mobile, you'll be able to record your own name. So if you have a name like myself, Justin Nguyen, when most people see it, they'll be like Nguyen, Nguyen, all these different sort of pronunciations. There's this thing that you can do on LinkedIn mobile that allows you to like say your name into your phone, and then a little icon will pop up here so that people can click on it and hear your name so that they won't, hopefully they won't mispronounce it. So for people with like really confusing names, then that's important. Again, any other questions when it comes to like this top profile? Those are like the main things for that, but let me know. This right here, make sure that you have this on if you're looking for an internship or a job. It basically just shows recruiters that you're open to work, but I wouldn't put the green little circle thing on your profile. So I see a lot of students do that. What that basically shows is sort of like, from my perspective, this is not necessarily proven, but this is what I've heard from other LinkedIn people, is it kind of shows that you're desperate, A. B, it kind of makes you grouped into all of the other people that have that same green ring around. And then you just then become another fish in the pond rather than standing out with your profile picture. So between those two things, I wouldn't say there's really a positive, but you can still turn on this section without having that open to work green banner. So this section just allows you so that on the recruiter's back end, you pop up on their search feeds a little bit more in terms of on their rankings. All right, next is the about section. This is again where a lot of students make the mistake. You want this section to read more like a story rather than your resume. And the reason for that is, let's say I landed on this page and I scroll down a little bit more. This right here is basically just your resume, right? So why am I, as a recruiter or hiring manager or anyone, why would I want to read your resume twice? You don't. But if you make this into something, an interesting story, then I read through this, I get excited about you, and then maybe I read a little bit more about like your experience. So you want these first 300 characters to be super eye-catching. And again, you have to make it geared towards whatever audience that you're looking to talk to. So for me, it's college students. So I kind of compare it to the Umbrella Academy. So if you've ever watched the Umbrella Academy on Netflix, hit it up in the chat because that's a dope show. If you haven't, go and watch it. If you need something to distract you from studying or something like that. But the Umbrella Academy is a great show, and that kind of connects to Gen Z. So that's what I would suggest there. You want to make sure that this leads you to clicking see more, because you want the meat of your profile to be in this section that they don't see, but that's also where you're going to be selling yourself. So this sort of makes students want to click see more. They click see more, and then you're hit with basically my sell. So talking about how this isn't another long interview episode. Here's where you can find it. This is hilarious. So I haven't updated this in a while. But yeah, at the beginning of 2020, it was like, this is going to be the year that I'm going to blow up on the speaking tours. I spoke in Dubai in late 2019. I was like, oh, this is going to be really cool. And then bam, COVID kind of hit. So it doesn't really happen. So again, I'm converting for more entrepreneurship, speaking, and my podcast. You are going to obviously be converting for a job or an internship. So what you want to do is find a way to tell your story and find different ways to connect to that recruiter while telling your story, to be able to showcase the skills that you have. So whether that's a project that you've worked on, that you're a first generation student, an immigrant student, all these different sort of factors, you want to find ways to piece that into it, because although I might not connect to it, maybe Mitchell doesn't, maybe Ben doesn't, maybe Paul doesn't, but maybe that recruiter on the other side is a first generation student as well. When they were going through school, they can connect with that, and then they can reach out to you. And that's a piece that they can kind of connect with. The biggest thing that students forget is most people look the same on a piece of paper, right? We all have very similar resume templates. We all have similar GPAs. Some might be a little bit better, some might be a little bit worse. We have similar experiences. The thing that really makes the difference is, can that other person see that that they can work with you for 40 to 60 hours a week? And to be able to work with someone for 40 to 60 hours a week, you need to find a point of connection. And that could be sports, hobbies, backgrounds, anything like that, where you grew up. All these different sort of factors might seem nominal to you, but in the long run, you never know how you can connect with someone.
Hey Justin, Declan has had a question about this section. Like he said
Yep.
about like how long do you think that this about section should be?
Definitely, yeah.
How
So
long do you suggest? Yeah.
Yeah, so I used to recommend to use all of your characters. But what I realized was you probably don't want to do that because you want to be cognizant of people's times. So what I would say is probably stick to something like this, this length. Since you are Gen Z, you're allowed to use emojis to kind of split things up. So use those to your advantage. And what I would say is have this quick hook right here, have 2 or 3 paragraphs talking about who you are, what you've done, a little bit about your background, and give a few points of connection to connect with whoever's reading your page, and then have an ultimate call to action at the end, whether it's an internship that you're looking for, whether it's please reach out to me and connect with me, send me a connection request, whatever it may be. You want to have a call to action at the end, because most people, by the time that they read this, if they don't know what to do next, then they're not going to do anything. So you want to be able to tell them like, hey, reach out to me for this, this, and this, or we'll always love to connect with people. Or even I've even seen some people put like their Calendly link in there, and then just so people can just set up meetings that way. So let me know if that answered your question, Declan.
Sound great. Thank you.
Perfect. Next section is featured. So this is where content kind of comes into play. If you have a portfolio website, a personal website, or anything like that, make sure that you're linking it here. Secondly is you can use the article feature to really showcase your knowledge. And what I mean by that is going back to that point where most students look the same on a piece of paper, right? You just look at UCF, how many students are graduating every single semester. It's like a crap ton of thousands of students. So we all graduated with the same degree. So how do you differentiate yourself? A, being a likable person, and then also B, showcasing that you actually know how to do the skill that you're saying that you know how to do. There's a story that I like to tell when it comes to one of my internships. It was a finance internship, and one of the first weeks of the internship, we went into sort of like this training room, and the person leading the training said, does anybody know how to use Microsoft Excel and do a pivot table? So I didn't know how to do a pivot table, so I didn't raise my hand, but everyone else raised their hand. So then the trainer was like, okay, does someone want to show me how to do a pivot table using this data? Nobody went up and did it. And that literally just shows like everyone was lying and now they have a bad taste on their mouth. But that's what recruiters and hiring managers have to deal with on a resume, right? They can't really tell if you know how to do Microsoft. They can't really fact check everything that you've done on your resume, that you said you've done on your resume. But if you can provide visual evidence that you have done something, that just solidifies yourself even more into being able to do that job or that position for whatever that person is recruiting for. So you can use these articles using that by, let's say, I'll go with a finance example, where let's say you're trying to get a job in investment banking. What I would do is connect with all the people that you can at Goldman Sachs, Chase Bank, etc., and then reach out to them, just saying, hey, my name is Justin Nguyen. I'm a student looking to learn more about the investment banking industry. Would love to connect and learn about how you transitioned from your college into Goldman Sachs. A few will connect back with you, but that's a good starting point. Next, when the company that you have been following for a little bit releases earnings, create a LinkedIn article about you going through those earnings, the 10K, everything like that, and giving your prediction about where you think the stock is going to go, up or down, why, your analysis basically, and then pulling in an Excel sheet that you've built out as well. Putting that into a LinkedIn article and then sharing it on LinkedIn and then sending it to those recruiters saying, hey, like I just created this article. I'd love to get your insights on this and see where it can kind of go. They will either say, yo, Justin, this is great. This is really good stuff. I like what you're doing. Or they'll be like, no, I didn't like what you did here. Is there a way that we can change this a little bit? And that'll give you knowledge into what they're expecting in terms of on their interviews for later. And then that can give you a good way to open up that door to leading conversations for internships or jobs in that way. So that's how you can use LinkedIn articles pretty effectively from a content perspective. Any questions on that?
I don't think so, but that's pretty interesting. You know, like, so you said like that investment banking example, right? You would send that Excel sheet to like, or you would post it, do the LinkedIn post or whatever. And then you said you would like send the LinkedIn post to like the recruiters, or do you like send it just to like the people that are this like that you reached out to that, you know, hold those jobs? Because the recruiters wouldn't really like.
Yeah, recruiters might look at it, but they might not. The best bet is if you find a connection on the inside, right?
Yeah.
So connecting with the people who are in the jobs that you want, or the hiring, or the managers of the people that you want. Because that can be sort of like how you start your mentorship like relationship with them. And they'll probably be more than happy to scan over it for like 5 minutes and provide feedback, especially if you're coming from like a genuine place and not being annoying about it.
Mhm. And so what's your, I guess, opinion on like the LinkedIn premium?
I don't think you need it. And for this one reason right here. So let me just pull up another tab real quick. So LinkedIn Premium, I mean, the only good thing about it from a student perspective is you have unlimited searches. But if you use this tool right here, you don't really need unlimited searches. It doesn't really, I mean, it might boost your profile a little bit when it comes to like in the search ranking results. But the beauty of using LinkedIn is you can take your sort of destiny in your own hands. And what I mean by that is just like like we'll just look up UCF for instance here. Sorry, my Wi-Fi is terribly slow. But in the chat, can someone put like a dream company and a dream job that they would really like? Like, what's your dream company or dream job? Blue Origin. What are you like? What do you want to do at Blue Origin? R&D. Okay, research and development. So I just looked up University of Central Florida, right? Most people don't know about this, but if you click down here to alumni, it's basically a search bar for all of UCF's alumni easily. And so from UCF, of course I don't have my upgrade, but if you do it on your own profile, if you haven't reached your limit, you can see, this is a terrible example because I have reached my limit for this month, but from UCF, there's like 330,000 alumni from UCF. And this search bar, you literally just type in Blue Origin. And again, if I had my premium sort of renewed for the month, or you don't need premium, you just need to not reach your limit, you would look up Blue Origin. And then if someone has worked at Blue Origin in the past or is currently working there, their profile would pop up here, and you just send them a connection request like, yo, Justin, like, or don't say yo, say like, hey, Justin, I'm looking to connect with successful UCF alumni that are at Blue Origin. I'd love to learn a little bit more about how you've transitioned into your position at doing XYZ. Probably you'll get like a 30% conversion rate if you're sending personalized invites. So as long as there's a few people that pop up for this, then it's perfect. Like if I just look up Disney, this is of course just going from my personal connections, like from my personal connections alone, I have 62 people that work at Disney, everything from recruiters to HR people. I mean, so if you want a job at Disney, I can see if I can hook you up with Alex or Amy, but these are just people that would pop up on your own feed as well. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use LinkedIn, but this is probably the most effective tool when it comes to this platform. Yeah, so Ben said he just did it, 109 people. So like there you go, like just very strategically figured out who you need to connect with on LinkedIn. And I feel like that's the hardest battle is like, oh, now I don't really know what I want to, or I know where I want to go, but I don't know who to connect with. That's how you can do it, just using the LinkedIn alumni tool. And no one talks about that enough.
I literally never knew about that. That's
Amazing.
like
So-
that just blew my mind.
Yeah, so like Blue Origin, like that's not a huge company, right? In terms of like employees per se. It's a big name company if you're in the tech space, but it's not like a ginormous company. And UCF has 109 people that work there. So that's the benefit of going to a large school like UCF is our alumni network is ginormous. This is a very strategic way to use it to your advantage, because there's no way in hell that you can figure out who to connect with just by searching on LinkedIn. But using the alumni tool, they make it easily just like that.
Yeah, and I've thought a lot about how like I feel like universities always preach. So I'm part of the alumni association at UCF.
Is Ben cutting in and out?
I think he's cutting in and out. Ben, you're cutting in and out.
Is this better?
Maybe. Talk
I
again.
don't know.
Yeah,
I was just saying that
you're
like
good
I
now,
know,
yeah.
I know a lot of universities preach about how like connected their alumni network is, and I was never really sure how true that is.
Not true. I'll tell you,
Exactly.
I'll tell you from an alumni perspective, it is not true. Like, again, this is not to throw shade at UCF at all, but this is just sort of the real truth. And what you'll know from me is I only tell the truth. I don't try to like beat around the bush. I graduated in 2018 and I was like, oh, this is really cool. I think the college of business has like 12,000 students or something stupid like that. And they're graduating like 2,000 students every semester or so. So you would think that their college of business alumni network is something like really strong. It turns out when you go to these meetings, there's like 12 people there, 15 people there. And it's like, okay, so you're telling me that there are 400,000 alumni on LinkedIn from UCF. Probably a fourth of those are business alumni just because of the nature of how many students are business students. You're only getting 20 people to an alumni meeting. That doesn't make sense. Granted, of course, people move to different places in the world and everything like that, but still. So the alumni network is not close, but the alumni connection of you reaching out saying that you want to connect with alumni from UCF is still strong, and use that to your advantage as much as possible when you're a student.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a question. You
Yeah.
talked about how the fact that you make content and post it on LinkedIn, that never ever in any sphere of anything popped into my mind as something I have the ability to do. At what, like, I don't even really know, like, what sort of point of authority do I have to make predictions about anything or make content that is worth these other professionals to spend their time looking at?
Dude, that's a great question. And I'm glad that you asked that, because I felt the same way when I was first starting off, right? Who is at the time, like a 20-year-old to talk about higher education, which is what I was really talking about at the time. And what you'll realize is, even though we don't have a place of authority in terms of like a master's degree, a doctorate, or like even work experience, really, what people care about is actually the younger person's perspective. And realizing that your perspective is important is key. Like, we had someone on our podcast, her name's Katy Perry, not the singer. She's like the VP of marketing at this up and coming trading platform similar to Robinhood, but they basically combine Robinhood with Twitter. So you can see what people are trading, which is really interesting. But she said one of the best pieces of advice that she was given by someone was to always have an opinion and to realize that your opinion matters no matter how old you are. Now, I'm not saying you need to be Elon Musk-esque and like start trying to say that you're going to go travel to Mars and stuff like that. But having a legitimate opinion backed up by whatever research that you've done, that gives you authority because you can show that you've done the research, right? That like you can't just say like, oh, like for instance, the finance example, right? You can't just say, oh, I think Disney's just going to go up. No one's going to care why you said that. But if you say, oh, I think Disney's going to go up because even though again, I'm just BSing here, but even though the tourism industry is down right now, it looks like there's a vaccine that's going to come and that's going to allow tourism to blossom and the stock market's going to go back up. Again, just BS, no real backing there. But having experience, having resources to back up your thoughts is very important. And your opinion does matter, even coming from a younger perspective. For
Okay,
instance,
that's good.
Ethan, right?
Yes.
What industry are you trying to get into?
Right now, I'm majoring in industrial engineering, and I'm looking more towards sustainability or the environment.
Okay, so sustainability and environment, right? That obviously that's a hot topic, just A, politically, but also B, because people are talking about wanting to save the world, right? In terms of like the earth and stuff. Finding a way to combine that with your unique perspective of being Gen Z could be talking about up and coming environmental tech startups that are popping up and why they're important. And what you'll realize is older folks who are in the industry, they might be experts in their space, right? In the environmental space, but they don't know about what's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
You as I'm not sure how old you are, but 20, 21, however old you are as a 21-year-old, you have more time on your hands to do that research. And being a curator of content is super important because you save those older people time.
That's really interesting. I'd never really thought about it like that.
No problem. So I'm glad I can help because like realizing that if you can be the person that does, let's just say 10 hours of research, right? And you're able to sum that down into a LinkedIn post or a LinkedIn article, that CEO that doesn't have 10 hours of time to do that research, but they can take a couple minutes to read whatever you put out, they'll do that if your stuff is valuable. And that's where you start to see really young people utilize the internet in the correct way because they realize that they're not coming from a place of authority. They have to create their own authority through their own research and backing it up. But if you produce great content on the internet, it'll reward you.
So you're saying I make this content, I make these like, 3-minute, 2-minute articles, and then I send them to somebody I met at like a webinar or something, or I cold call kind of thing, just send them to anybody.
So let's say you create an article about the up and coming environmental startups that you've never heard about, right? So staying away from all the hype that I'm sure you probably know, finding these sort of up and coming gems. What you can do is connect with interesting people who have interesting profiles that are UCF alums that are in the environmental space. Connect with them just saying, hey, I'd love to learn more. I'm looking to get into the environmental industry. I'd love to connect and learn more about like what you're doing and how you transitioned into that space. They will probably connect. You'll probably exchange a few words back and forth. And then you have this article in the back of your head and you can say, hey, Ben, like I saw that you're working at, I don't know what company, but Blue Origin. Let's just say Blue Origin has like an environmental side to it. So that you're working at Blue Origin. I just wrote this article about like 5 up and coming tech startups that most people probably haven't heard of that are founded by Gen Z founders. Would it be cool if I shot it over to you? They'll either say yes or no, but if they say yes, you can send it over and just ask for their feedback.
Okay.
You want to use the content as a door to start a conversation, right? Because asking someone for feedback is much easier than asking, yo, Ben, like I saw you work at Blue Origin. Can you get me a job there? Like it doesn't work like that, right? But if you've built up that mentor-like relationship of just sending them some stuff and they find it valuable, they're like, oh, Ethan's actually like a really good researcher. He knows what he's talking about. you've built up some brand reputation in their head, so that later on you can ask for a cup of coffee. Cup of coffee turns into a 30-minute meeting. 30-minute meeting turns into dinner. Dinner turns into you being able to ask them for a referral when you actually need it. And that's when the referral actually comes into handy, because that person is willing to put their name on your name, rather than just like you trying to hit up every single person at any company and saying, yo, can you give me a referral into Google? Yo, can you give me a referral into Disney? And those are very hard to come with.
That brings up a piece of advice I totally forgot I knew. I know there was a college professor who wrote the book on interviews, and he said his golden piece of advice is just say you do research, and people will be like, that's awesome.
Like if you want the greatest hack into whatever industry that you want from a college student's perspective, literally start a podcast in whatever industry that you want to go into. And all you have to say is, hey, my name is Justin Nguyen. I started a podcast, like an environmental podcast. I'd love to get your expertise on XYZ and share it on the show. Are you open to a 15-minute conversation? You're basically picking their brain. That's all you're doing. But if you sent them a message saying, hey, Justin, like, can I pick your brain? Then you're like, why does this person want to take value from me? What am I getting out of it? But because you have a podcast, and the beauty of podcasts is no one knows how many views your show actually gets. As long as you get like 20 of your boys to put a review on your podcast, it seems legit, and you have a cool cover art, people are going to think that it's great. And that's all you need to get big guests on. Just having a good cold email, having a few reviews, and having a good cover art, and people will take you serious.
That was very cool.
It's the best way to ask for a cup of coffee without asking for a cup of coffee. So yeah, I know we have like 10 more minutes left. This section is very similar to your resume, so I don't want to go too much in depth in it. Like I basically just copied and pasted a lot of the stuff from my resume onto here. I just added a little like pizzazz to it, but you want to make sure that you have those keywords that I talked about earlier that go into your headline in this section as well. And then again, if you have any visual sort of documentation of you doing it, again, whether it's websites, podcasts, whatever it may be, you want to be able to link it here to kind of show your work. So I want to keep it open. If anyone else has any questions, feel free to either unmute your mic, ask it in the group chat. I'm an open book when it comes to anything LinkedIn or even career related.
Yeah, Justin, as far as time goes, generally we usually run over, so I wouldn't be super worried about running out of time. Sorry, it sounded like I cut somebody off.
Yeah, so with that work experience part and the more resume style things, for a resume you send to a business, you trim it down a lot. Is this LinkedIn part going to be trimmed down at all?
Yeah, you want it to be very concise in the same way. Like only put your key accomplishments that are geared towards whatever job that you want to go into.
Okay.
And what I mean by that, right, is when I was graduating, like when I was in school, I wanted a finance job because that was my major. So if you look at all of my previous stuff, which you don't even see on like the top of the fold, it's all finance oriented. And that's when you see like it's very sort of numbers stuff, talking about my work at Northwestern, the Hartford, Lockheed, etc. The interesting thing is when I graduated, I wanted a job in, like, if I was going to get a job, I would get a job in marketing. And all of that experience is projects. So like my own podcast that I started, this campus editor program, and then my other two projects of Get Your Grind Up and Declassify College. This stuff means more on my resume for a marketing internship than my big name finance stuff. And I think a lot of students get caught up on, oh my God, I need to intern at this big company. I need to do this or that. What really matters is, can you show that you have the skills to pay the bills for whatever job that you're going for? It doesn't matter if it's a project that you started on your own or if you're interning at Blue Origin. What they care about is, do you have any source of reputation in that space? And then how did you get it? Anyone else have any other questions? And I have until like 6:40, 6:45, so we can go over if people keep asking questions.
Justin, so a lot of people here are freshmen,
So if they don't know exactly where they want to work or like what their interests are, what do you recommend for them?
I love this. So this is an analogy that I kind of came up with, and everyone seems to laugh about it whenever I say it. But basically, you want to treat your career like how you've grown to like vegetables. So most people usually like vegetables later on in their life, right? But when you're first starting off, you're like, oh, this stuff is gross, because all you're really fed is like heated up vegetables or stuff from your school lunch, which is absolutely terrible. But as you start to grow up, you realize the health benefits of vegetables and you start trying them again, and you figure out the ones that you like and the ones that you don't like. That's what you want to do with your career. If you don't know what you want to do, you have to try things to cross things off. You're not going to be able to find your dream career by just researching on Google, watching YouTube videos and things like that. You might find an interest, but the only way to actually test and see if you like what type of job that's going to be, then is the only way is to do that is by through testing, the same way that you tested eating vegetables, right? So like I always say, a vegan was never born a vegan. They had to grow up to like vegetables. It's the same thing as you. You were never born a business major. You weren't born an engineer, whatever it may be. You have to figure that out throughout your life and through different experiences. And the only way to do that is to try things out. Did that help, Paul?
Yeah, I think that's a great analogy.
Should I be accepting every single person that asks for a connection on LinkedIn? Because there's some people who I just don't even know at all.
So my rule of thumb of this is I tried to accept everyone up until you get to 500, just so you get the little clout of like the 500 plus connections. Because if it's under 500, then you have like the specific number. But whether you have 500 or 5 million, like I have like 85 or 8,900 followers or something like that, 8,600 followers, it just says 500 plus. So just make sure that you get 500. And once you get to 500, be strategic with who connects with you. Whether it's like looking at their profile and seeing if they're in an industry that you want to get into, or if they're just doing cool things, always connect with them. And then if you can, send them a message, just like saying, like going through their profile, whatever, like key talking point that you can talk about.
Do you have any recommendations for slimming down, like what kind of skills we should add under the skills section? Because like looking at like the things that are listed, it seems like there's a lot on there, and I'm not quite sure like what all I should look into adding, or if
Are
I
you
should...
talking about this right here?
Yeah.
The skill and endorsement section. So you want to add as many as possible. And the reason that I think you get 50, up to 50. So if you can, I would add all the way up to 50. As you can see, a lot of these stuff is sort of overlapping. But the reason that you want to add as much as possible is because these all help your search engine optimization. So if you have a lot of people saying that you know that you have analytical skills or you have team leadership, that means that when a recruiter looks up a person with those skills, you pop up first because you have more people that have given you that endorsement. So making sure that you have whatever skills that are needed from the job descriptions that you're looking up, make sure that you're popping them in here. And then again, just get your friends to just like and endorse the crap out of you, because no one cares as long as you have a number behind it. These are all sort of like marketing cheat codes that no one talks about from the career standpoint.
Yeah, and that's gonna be my next question of should we be like, how selective should we be with like asking people for endorsements on like the different skills? But it sounds like you said it should be pretty broad.
Yeah, so like if it's your friends, then just ask them like, yo, can you just endorse me for everything? It's just like click, 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 and you get your endorsement. If you're asking like cold messaging or someone that you don't really know too well, the sort of way to do it is, you guys might be like a little too young. And it's funny saying that because I'm only like 3 years older than you. But on Facebook, there's like the poke feature, right? Do you guys remember like the poke feature back in the day? And you could have like poke wars. And that's basically what you kind of want to do with this, where before it's like someone pokes you, you poke them back. You endorse them for like 3 or 5 skills. They usually will endorse you back for like 3 or 5 skills if they see that. So that's a way to ask without asking, because if you ask people that you don't really know, then it's kind of like awkward, you know what I mean? Because they're like, why am I endorsing you for a skill that I don't really know that you have? But if you do it to them, usually they'll just do it back to you just to be nice. Any other questions? Oh, last thing, if no one else has any questions. So let's see if Paul has it. I'm going to pick on Paul just because I know I'm connected to him. Let's see if he's been paying attention to the podcast that he's been listening to. He hasn't. All right. So as I'm scrolling down the right-hand side, right, I see this section. People you may also know.
Oh,
People
for
you
real?
may know. You want to turn this section off, right? Because so Paul has Department of Defense security secret clearance. I mean, that's pretty dope that you have that. But let's say I'm scrolling down and I see someone, I don't know, maybe I want to talk to Miko a little bit more. I just clicked his profile and now I'm completely off of Paul's. So that's basically like unneeded competition for no reason. And I don't know why this person is popping up on your profile because he's from Canada, but he is. And now that recruiter or whoever was on your page has probably completely forgotten about who Paul is, and they're trying to figure out why they're on Miko's page because he has a hat on. So the way that you can turn that off is if you just go to settings and privacy, and then scroll down a little bit to, where is it? To account preferences. Viewers of this profile also viewed. We want to change that to no. And if that's no, then that just completely closes out. So you don't have to worry about that. Cool. So that's my last cheat code when it comes to link. Yeah, go ahead. Whoever was talking.
Yeah, so I guess kind of related to that, where can people stay up to date to like everything you're doing and get more information about the podcast and everything?
Yeah, so if you want to check out the podcast, it's Declassified College on pretty much any podcasting app that you have. So just check that out. It's just Declassified College. And then our TikTok has kind of exploded over the past month. We've gone from 0 to 100K in a month somehow. And yeah, we do some tips and tricks on there. So if you want to check that out, feel free to follow us there if you have TikTok. Those are the two main things. Send me a connection request on LinkedIn. Make sure to personalize it so that I see it. I get a bunch of connection requests. So just making sure that you stand out from the rest. Just let me know that this talk is the one that sent you. But yeah, feel free to send me any questions that you have about LinkedIn via LinkedIn. If
One
anyone
last
else.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a question. I always see people posting like their resume on LinkedIn, and that doesn't really make any sense to me. What is your opinion on that?
So you can use it. There's a way to hack it, right? So most people will post their resume and be like, hey guys, like I'm looking for a job. Can you shoot this resume out? And most of the times those won't get that many views. I mean, occasionally they'll go viral just because you get lucky. But if you want to be more strategic about it, put up your resume and say, hey, I'm a student and I'm looking to really optimize my resume. Can you comment what your tips would be to optimize my resume a little bit better? And so what that does is people will comment on your resume because everyone thinks that they're an expert, right? And you kind of have to go through the comments to see who's actually knowledgeable in the space. But because you're getting comments and engagement, LinkedIn will boost it in the algorithm typically, and it'll get shot up or shot out into more people. So if you're connected to recruiters, hiring managers, or people at the firms that you want to work at, they'll see it more because it's being pushed out in the algorithm.
So you're hoping that other people are seeing your content. Are you spending time on LinkedIn just scrolling through the feed, looking at other people's?
If you want to use LinkedIn effectively, I would definitely say you need to spend a little bit of time on the platform. So that could be like 30 minutes or so every single day, just scrolling and engaging whenever you see it. me personally, just because TikTok has taken off and like with the podcast, and honestly, a lot of the content that I see on LinkedIn hasn't been amazing lately. So I don't spend as much time as I did when I was in college. But to put it into perspective, when I was in college, I was probably spending anywhere between an hour or two, at least a day, just like engaging with people, connecting with people, or creating content on LinkedIn. That's how I was getting that amount of views. Anyone else have any other questions?
So would you just do a post with your resume? Would you just post, oh, can you guys give me some insights into what I can change or put into my resume to make it better? Like just make a post out of that?
Yeah, like I would say if I were to create a post about I've actually done it in the past, like a long time ago. And I was saying like, hey, I'm trying to get into the marketing industry. This is my resume right now. What are your thoughts about it? And like, what would you do to make it better? And you're just kind of leaving it open-ended, but also at the same time, you have to be open to criticism. So some people might say your resume is absolutely trash. It's the internet, so people will talk junk to it. So you have to be careful of that, and you have to make sure that you have enough self-esteem to be able to weather that at the same time. But just be sure that you're basically asking for a job without asking for a job, right? So you create that first post asking for recommendations about what to do for your resume. And then the next week after you've taken all of that insights into consideration, you create a new resume and you say, hey guys, here's my new resume. Let me know what you guys think. This is what I got from all your comments. And then now you've just pushed it out again as like your final resume, so more people can see it. And you never know who might hit you up from there. Or you might see that a recruiter comments or likes that post, or a hiring manager or someone interesting. Then you can reach back out to them, say, hey, I saw that you liked my post or you commented on it. Would love to learn more about what you're doing at XYZ. And that's how you can open that door there.
Justin, did you have a internship your first summer, first one or two?
So no, yeah. So that's kind of the reason that I started everything Get Your Grind Up and Declassified related. So my freshman summer, I just didn't do anything. I was just kind of chilling and relaxing. But going into my sophomore into junior year summer, I was like, okay, it's kind of time to get serious. I need to find an internship. And what I did was I had like a near 4.0. I joined the student clubs. I did what I was supposed to do basically. And I applied to internships and I couldn't get an internship to save my life. I couldn't even get an interview. So I applied to like 50 plus places and didn't get an interview. And what I figured out through the time that I was trying to find an internship that sophomore into junior year, all the way to when I graduated, was there's a bunch of these cheat codes. And that's what I've learned through whether it's LinkedIn tactics, resume tactics, how to reach out to people, how to cold email people, how to actually network, things like that. That's always, I had to figure that out on my own. And I just want to be sort of that voice that translate that to the current students, because no one's talking about it in an interesting way to get people's attention. Everyone's just saying like, oh, here are these resume tips. And for the average student, no one's going to pay attention to that. And also just to add, like I had 5 internships, 3 at Fortune 500 companies, and 4 out of the 5 internships I never applied to.
Huh.
Like I pretty much got it before I had to apply. It was just a formality at that point. So that's just to put it into perspective of like, don't get down on yourself that you're not getting internships or interviews or anything like that. It might just be about the way that you're going about it. And again, I go into depth on all the different ways that I've got my internships through the different types of content on the podcast and stuff. So just make sure that you listen to those. Like I think there's literally an episode where I talk about how I interned at 3 Fortune 500 companies or something like that. Cool.
Damn, Justin, this has been very, very beneficial.
Yeah.
Literally, like you blew my mind like many times just through this call. This has been awesome. I never would have thought of like all of these things. Yeah, golden nuggets, literally. Like I'm glad I'm recording this and so then I have it so you look back on it literally. Oh my gosh. Well, Justin, if does anyone have any further questions for Justin? And if you do think of one, you guys know how to reach him. And Justin, thank you for your time. This has been amazing.
No, thank you. Thank you. If there's anything I can do for you guys, just let me know. And then, I mean, Ben, if you want to plug me to the president when you speak to him, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No, but like this is all stuff that like students should definitely know, and that's kind of like why we like formed First Step, was just to like get that like the tips and tricks of like, you know, hey, we got a freshman internship and like we had success our freshman year, this is how you guys can also have that success. So it's like the same essence literally like with you, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah,
So
no, I love what you guys are building, and it's like it's not hard, right? At the end of the day, it's really not that hard. What it really comes down to is, do you know how to play the game? And there's people that do, and there's people that don't. And unless you have parents who were sort of working in the corporate world, it's very hard to find this sort of information out there. And I just want to be that person that is able to kind of showcase it the same way that you guys are doing it with your club. So I love the work that you guys are doing. If you guys ever need someone to come back and speak, whether it's the springtime or whatever it may be, just have either Paul or you, Mitchell, or whoever it is, just hit me up, and I'll be more than happy to come and talk.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Justin, I'd love to have more one-on-one conversations with you about this Santa topic.
For sure. Oh my gosh.
100%. Yeah. So just any of you guys, just hit me up, let me know what's good, and then we can figure it out. Cool.
Yeah, I just wish
Awesome.
more people joined this meeting. They don't understand what they missed. Yeah. It's okay.
for
Okay.
next time.
Yeah, for next time. But
Awesome.
Justin, thank you so much.
No, I appreciate you guys. You guys all have a good one.
You
Have a
too.
good one.
Thank you.
And if anyone has anything else, I'm gonna end the meeting now. But thank you guys.
Thank you.